Hi, I'm Chef Lynn. Welcome to the Flavor Secrets Kitchen. This week I had a creative meltdown, and so I threw it out to social media and I said, what would you like to see? The top things that came back on my Facebook page were things that are easy, summer grilling, and crab cakes. So that's what we're going to do today, and then I'll keep that list because obviously those are things you want to see and I should be asking you, and we'll work through that list over the summer. So we're going to start today by making some quinoa, Q-U-I-N-O-A, quinoa. This is a wonderful thing to make because it's a complete protein. You can serve it to vegetarians and you can serve it to people who are gluten-free because it's a seed. It's not a wheat product. Now the problem with it is that it's a little bit bland. You can see here it's just a little tiny seeds from the goosefoot plant. And it tastes much better if you put things in it and if you toast it first. Now I'm not sure if you can hear this or not, but I've had this on for about 5 minutes on low heat and it's making a snap, crackle, pop sound and it's actually kind of jumping in the pan. So that's when I know it's ready to receive my liquid. Now I've got a cup of quinoa in here, which you can buy anywhere these days, Costco, Plum Market, in my area, anywhere. And then you want to stand back a little bit because remember that pan is hot, and carefully put 2 cups of liquid in. Now I'm using chicken broth, but you can use seafood broth, you can use, I'm using chicken stock, not broth, and you can use water, you can use anything to make it fit your dietary requirements. So now once that comes back to a boil, all I have to do is turn the heat down, put the top on, turn the heat down to low, and set my timer here for 15 minutes. And then I know it's done. Then all you have to do is turn the heat off and let it wait for you because it'll stay warm in the pan and it can wait a while. And then we're going to add in some sauteed vegetables and a little tomato. The vegetables are about 1/4 of a white onion, about 1/4 of a red pepper, and 1/4 of an orange pepper. And I chose 2 colors just to make it interesting and to make it pretty. And then I threw some little chunks of tomato in here, which when we throw them in with the quinoa, they're going to just kind of schmooze down and taste really, really good, but still fresh, not totally cooked through. Okay, now next let's move over here and we'll take a look at the crab cakes. Crab cakes are a little bit on the expensive side. They cost, a nice crab costs about $25 a pound. I happen to get this at Costco. It's chicken of the sea and it's jumbo lump crab. That's what you want. So you can see I just basically turned it over and then I squeezed a little bit of the liquid out of it. You used to have to be really careful of shells in the crab, but nowadays it's pretty good. I just kind of pay attention to it as I'm working with it to see if I can catch any shells that might be in there. Now if I turn it over, you can see that the best pieces are on the top. So when I mix my crab cakes, I kind of move those to the side so I can save them. I don't want to break them up. I want those big lumps inside my crab cakes. So I'm going to mix everything else in with the crab that's shredded a little more first so I don't lose that integrity. Okay, and all I'm going to add is about 1/4 of a red pepper, and notice that I've chopped it really tiny. About 1/4 of a white onion, same thing as in the quinoa. And then I'm going to add an egg, and I'm going to mix up that yolk a little bit before I add it, just to break it up. And the egg adds a little protein and helps it bind together. The last thing I'll add is about 1 tablespoon of breadcrumbs. Now these are gluten-free breadcrumbs. I pretty much make everything I can gluten-free these days because so many people need it. And I made them just by, you can make toast and crumble it up, or you can save the ends if you're making little toast points. I save the ends and then I chop them up, put melted butter on them and toast them in the oven for about 15 minutes, stirring every 5 minutes or so. And then I've got my own gluten-free breadcrumbs because I know they're kind of hard to find. At least it's hard to find tasty ones. So notice I'm just kind of mixing this together carefully so that I don't break up all the crab. You'll see a lot of crabs, and by the way, crab cakes, and by the way, you can make fish cakes this way too, where there's lots of filling in it, lots of breading, etc., etc. But I don't want that. I want my crab cakes to taste like crab, so I don't put a lot of extra stuff in it. So now here I've just mixed in the lump crab. You could also save that lump crab, the big pieces of it, for garnish if you wanted to. That would be pretty. I should have done that. That would have been a good idea. But anyway, I'm just making sure the egg is mixed all the way through, and then I can start forming them into cakes. And you're going to form them into cakes just like you would a nice hamburger, okay? So we're going to kind of go around like this with the hands, and make it into a nice wheel. There's one, and then we're going to set it in the breadcrumbs. Now I want the breadcrumbs on the outside because when we cook them, then they're going to get nice and toasty. So I'll turn it over like that. And then if you want to make a nice side on it, well, I'm losing it, and if it starts to come apart, just do it again, no big deal. You just get a little bit more breadcrumb in it. Set it down on the breadcrumb again. These are kind of thick breadcrumbs. I could have ground those up a little more. And then go around on the side of it like a wheel, like that, and it makes a nice flat side and a beautiful crab cake. Again, if it comes apart, that's a problem with not putting a lot of stuff in it. Sometimes they do come apart like that. Then whenever you bread anything, just kind of, I'm actually squeezing it together. I'll do it one more time. And actually when you bread anything, leave it set for about 20 minutes, and then the breading won't come off when you fry it. I'll do one more for you. You can get about 6 to 8 out of a pound of crab, depending on how many you make, or more if you want to make little mini crab cakes for appetizers. So squeeze it nice and hard, put it on the breadcrumbs, and then run it around like that, like a wheel. And then let that set for about 20 minutes before you cook it. So that's all there is to putting the crab cakes together, and I'll show you how to fry them in a minute. Next, we're going to make some kebabs. Now there are some tricks to making kebabs. And the first thing you need to do is to look for really cool skewers. This is my favorite one, and I like to use it for shrimp because it makes such a nice presentation. Just a second here to get a new pair of gloves on. These are black tiger shrimp. I got them at Costco. You can buy them frozen and keep them in the refrigerator for 3 months or so, or even longer if you want to. And then they're always on hand. You can always take a few out, make a nice appetizer really quickly. I've got these shrimp marinating in a little bit of Olive Hill Farm olive oil, and it's lime. Shrimp tastes really good with things that are citrus. So I've got lime olive oil on there, and then just some salt and pepper. What I'm not very good at is putting gloves on. Maybe I should do it more often, I don't know. All right, so the nice thing about these shrimp is they're all about the same size, and that's what you care about when you're grilling. You want things to be the same thickness so that they'll all cook at the same time, because there's nothing worse than getting a skewer of something with part of it raw. So all you have to do here is skewer it through there, bring it around, and I like to put them all the same way, so I'll go through the body of the shrimp first, and then the tail. It smells good. And I don't want to pick up too much oil here, because what's bad for you about grilling is when your grill flares up, because that's when you get the carbon monoxide on your food, and you don't really want that. You don't want that smoky look to it when you're grilling. Again, tail, head, or body first, and then tail, and they're going to come. You can see what a pretty presentation this is going to make on my salad. A nice serving is 6 for anyone, man or woman. Shrimp only have about 20 calories in them. Of course, we've added a little oil. Oops, I got that guy upside down, so we'll turn him around. And then one more. We'll make this a really big serving because I just happen to have this shrimp all marinated. Okay, and then I want to set that aside and let it drip just a little bit, because if I have too much oil on it, then I'm going to end up having my grill flare up. Okay, now next we have the chicken. One more time here. And notice how I've cut this chicken. I've already done it. I've cut it to meet the requirement that I was just talking about. It's all the same length and it's all the same thickness. So I took chicken breast and I cut it into strips. And each strip was the same length, okay? And then I cut each strip into half. So what I'm going to use here now are wooden skewers, and notice that I had them soaking in water. You want to soak them for about an hour before you use them, otherwise they might burn up on your grill. If you notice that your skewers, you really have to keep an eye on these, because if your skewers start turning black, number one, doesn't taste good, doesn't look good, isn't a nice presentation, and the whole thing could totally fall apart. So you don't want that. Maybe I should start getting powdered gloves. Anyway, all right. So now we've got the chicken skewers, and look at each piece, it's all about the same. And I've cut them into this size so that I can thread them. So we're going in, out, in. And the other reason to have pieces and not a big long chunk of chicken is that it's easier to take off, or if you want to eat it off the skewer, it's much easier to eat. So in, out, in. And I usually put 3 on each one. And that's not going to come off on the grill, which is what I want. And then as I make the next ones, again, I'm taking them out of the oil at this point so that some of that oil can come off. You don't want to have too much on the grill. 1, 2, same thing, 1, 2, 3. And this chicken is marinated in tangerine oil, which I love. One of my favorites is Paso Olivo from California. I order it online, and they grind the skins with the oil so that it doesn't separate. It's just a really wonderful tangerine olive oil, and everyone who tries it loves it. Okay, so 3 skewers is probably about enough for a serving. And let me reorganize here, and I'll come back and show you how to cook this. Okay, we're getting our SOS from the timer, so we know 15 minutes is up on our quinoa, and we're ready to move forward with that. First thing I'm going to do is turn the fire off, then open it up, give it a little stir. Looks good. And then I'm going to add these sauteed vegetables that I mentioned to you before, pepper, onion, and a little bit of tomato. And I'm just going to let it sit there and enjoy itself while we move on. Cover it up again, and that will stay hot and be ready when we're ready to plate. If I can move this over here just a little bit, out of the way. Okay, first thing about grilling is to keep seafood separate from chicken or anything like that, okay? Then you don't want your raw chicken to touch anything else, for starters. And also then if you do end up having someone who's allergic to seafood or chicken or whatever, then you've got that covered. So always keep them separate. I'm going to lay this on the soft side of the grill, in other words, on the grill that isn't as hot, the part of the grill that isn't as hot. I really have grown to dislike indoor grills because they're always too hot and they're kind of hard to control. I guess I'm going to have to turn the fan on just low here. And then I'll put the chicken on the hotter part because I want it to, it's going to take a little bit longer to cook, okay? There's a little bit of oil on the chicken, so I can just sort of move that around a little bit so that it doesn't stick. Actually, the best way to do that is to take a rag, I just happen to have a paper one here, and just oil your grill just a little bit, and then it'll keep it from sticking. And notice also that I'm putting the skewers off the edge because again they're wooden and I don't want them to burn. So watch your chicken on its side, and as it cooks it'll turn white. When it's halfway through, then you can turn it over, unless of course you want to have grill marks on it that are in different places, then you can move it around a little bit, but try not to turn it too much. The chicken's going to take 10 to 15 minutes, and we want it to be white all the way through to be done. The shrimp will take just a couple minutes per side, and we'll know that the shrimp is done because it will turn pink. Okay, so we're just going to leave that. Remember that this, if you use metal skewers, they get hot, so be careful about putting them on people's plates. Make sure you warn them because they're hot, and you can turn the whole thing at once. Okay, now while those are cooking, it's really impossible to turn this grill down, but so I'll have to keep a close eye on those. While those are cooking, we can start our crab cakes. And our crab cake is, everything in it is cooked, so all we have to do is heat it through. Now this isn't going to work real well. That wasn't real bright, was it? Okay, I'm going to move these just a little bit over here, out of my way. Turn this on. I've got a little bit of butter in there just for taste, and then I'm going to use a little bit of olive oil. And we'll melt that first. With the crab cakes, you just want to make sure you don't crowd your pan and that you get them nice and brown. So all we have to do is and that you don't have too much oil also. Lift them over here carefully. You can put a top on this if you want to help them heat through. And I'm going to leave them in there about 15 minutes, flipping them about halfway through when they're browned. Okay, so let's let this cook, and then I'll come back and show you how I would plate it. Okay, so here's our nice hot crab cake all ready to be served for our first course. And what I'm going to do for that is add a little bit of a salad. I put it on a really pretty summer plate, which is half the battle. Make sure you have some pretty dishes. And then I like to cut my lettuce up just a little bit, almost into like a little chiffonade. And then I'll arrange it around the plate so it looks pretty. This is a little bit of butter lettuce, and then I'm going to add a little bit of arugula on top of it. A little bit of arugula. You can always tell the arugula because it looks like an oak leaf. And then I'm going to add some celery, and I'm going to peel the celery because that outer layer is kind of stringy and it's hard to chew. And it's always really nice if you take just a second to peel that off for people. They really appreciate it. Push that aside. And then what I did is I cut this on an angle like this, just to make some nice big strips like this here. And it gives it interest. Sometimes people don't even know what it is just because it's cut differently. And the celery makes a nice crunch, which makes it delicious. And then we'll add a strawberry or two here. Just cut off the end and then cut into quarters. I think probably 2 strawberries. And I'm going to turn them over so that the red side is up. Maybe set a few of them up just to make it pretty. These are some nice organic strawberries. I love it when they finally come into the season. Delicious. And then I'm going to add a few little almonds. These are already toasted for me in this package. And a little bit of dressing. This is a Brianna gluten-free dressing that I like. Again, I try to keep things gluten-free as much as possible. This is a really tasty one. And then I would serve some on the side. And that is a very pretty. That actually could be an entree by itself, but we're going to call it a first course. Okay, our next course, put this back here, get out of the way. Our next course will be the shrimp. We've got this nice quinoa waiting for us. What did I do with my, here it is, my scoop. I'm going to take a nice big plate. I know for diets they always say use little plates, but I like to use big plates and spread it out, then it looks like you have more. I'll scoop out the quinoa and put it right in the middle and kind of mound it up. And then what I can do is bring my, can I pick this up? Yeah, bring my shrimp over there, right around it, and garnish it with a little bit of garden onion. How pretty is that? And notice how I've chosen a contrasting color for the garnish. You could also use chives or really any kind of an herb that you like. And then we can do the same thing for the chicken, so that, you know, if you're serving shrimp to some people and chicken to other people, then they all feel kind of like they're getting the same thing. Again, mound it up. My little scoop flipped. And then you can put your chicken skewers this way. I would always wipe off that plate, by the way. And again, a little green onion garnish. And you've got another beautiful entree without very many calories. And now I have a little idea for you for dessert. Here's a dessert that's fit for any restaurant, and it was really easy to make. I always have, well, let me tell you my philosophy, which is if there's something that somebody else does really well, buy it. If there's something that you do really well, that you enjoy doing, then make it. Biscotti is something I like to make, and it's really, really good fresh. If you've never had fresh biscotti, you should try to make some, because a lot of the biscotti in the stores is really quite old by the time it gets to you. So I always make fresh biscotti, put it in the freezer, and it comes right out of the freezer beautifully. You would never know that it was frozen. So I just grabbed a piece of biscotti. I have some little creme brulees left over from a dinner that I had the other night. I just had extra creme brulee, so I put it in these little mini things. And then I bought this at Costco. This is like a little mousse. It comes in a glass and it has a little top. So it's perfect. They last about a month, and it's like a little lemon custard. Then the only thing I would add to that is a little bit of toasted coconut. Again, if you've never had freshly toasted coconut, it's just absolutely to die for. And I'm going to put that on the top of my creme brulee, so I don't even have to brulee it. I get huge comments on this little presentation because people just love the toasted coconut, and it goes really well with the praline biscotti, and there's actually coconut in this little mousse also. So it's a perfect dish, and it looks like you spent a lot of time making it, and you really didn't. It's a leftover, it's a cookie that was frozen, and it's something that was purchased. So I hope you can enjoy that. Actually, you could serve any one of these things as the whole dessert for itself. So there you go, some ideas for summer grilling, some ideas that are easy, and your crab cake, which everybody wanted. I'm Chef Lynn. Enjoy.